We will start with a roll call for the Board of Directors. Mr. Swigert?
Ms. Blitzstein,
Present.
Mr. Burdell Williams,
Present.
Mr. Epps,
Present.
Ms. Henry,
Present.
Ms. Lohman,
Present.
Ms. Mulhern,
Present.
Ms. Murphy,
Present.
Mr. Schultz,
Present.
Dr. Whiting.
Present.
All right, that concludes the roll call. Next, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will lead, and then the statement of acknowledgement in honor of indigenous and diverse communities. We begin this meeting acknowledgement of and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. Cheltenham Township stands with the I can never pronounce that. The Lenape-Hoking, the ancestral homeland of the Lenape civilization. Their people were and still are caretakers of this land and its rivers. Their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land for more generations that can be counted. Please take a moment to consider these many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together as a school district committed to equity and social justice that fosters intellectual curiosity and discourse. Join us in uncovering such truth. Next, we will have public comments on agenda items only. And so if there's anyone in the audience who would have a comment on the agenda topic, please come to the podium, announce your name and where you reside on the district. If there are anyone online in Zoom, you can raise your hand. And we will unmute you. No, oh, okay, no hands raised. All right, we will next move into the president's report that will be provided by Dr. Scriven.
I will actually be giving that esteemed responsibility to Dr. Savage.
Good evening, and thank you so much for being here this evening. Tonight at this hybrid special legislative meeting, we actually will be asking the board to consider the administration's recommendation to close the Elkins Park School and asking that the board vote upon such recommendation. Next slide, please. This is actually 90 days from the first public hearing that we had around the proposal that the Elkins Park School be closed. Under Pennsylvania state law, school closure of a school building requires the board vote, but it also requires a public hearing. And at that public hearing in February, we actually detailed some of the recommendations of the administration. And tonight, prior to the board's vote upon this recommendation, we wanted to provide additional and finalized details. Next slide, please. We did actually at the February 26, 2025 public hearing state that we would have a public written comment period for 30 days. And we actually did not receive any written comments based upon the presentation that was provided on February 26, 2025. And we did want to note that at this point in time for the board. Next slide, please. From here on out, we will be detailing the final administrative recommendation of the closure of the Elkins Park School. Next slide. I wanted to make sure that I detailed and elevated our vision and our mission here in Cheltenham School District, because both the vision and the mission, as well as our essence, which is on the next slide, have really guided this work. We have centered our students. We have thought succinctly about what it means to create an environment where students can belong, become, and excel. And we have been collaborative in this process, not just with our internal staff, but also with our unions, with our students, and especially with our families, as we have considered some of their thoughts and considerations as we have moved through this process. Next slide, please. Our administrative approach, we wanted to provide a detailed plan regarding the proposed closure and engage the community and seek feedback regarding this proposed plan, which was the purpose of the public hearing. We have had some individual emails that have come from families and from stakeholders that we have considered and also reviewed, because they have impacted some of the planning based upon the thoughts, the concerns, the processes that they have elevated in our planning for this, because above all, we wanted to make sure that we were transparent and we were collaborative. Next slide. So our agenda for tonight, we will go through the finalized plans for 5th grade, EPIC, 6th grade at the modulars, and then provide some short construction updates before we talk about next steps, which will really be around communications and planning. Next slide. So our final recommendation is for school closure, and this has shifted from our February 26th recommendation slightly. Our rising 5th graders will remain in elementary schools for the 25th-26th school year. We are now going to relocate EPIC, which is the empowerment program in Cheltenham, to the new wing of the Elkins Park School. There is a wing of the Elkins Park School that was constructed in 1991 and is actually in relatively good shape. Given the size of the EPIC program at this point, that new wing could house EPIC and will do so in a way that gives our students the space that they need to flourish and to be successful. Our rising 6th graders will then move into the modulars for the 25-26 school year, and 6th grade only would remain there for the 26-27 school year. And the purpose of the 6th graders moving into the modulars is to allow for the construction of the 6th grade wing over at Cedarbrook Middle School, which we plan for completion in fall of 2027, at which point in time our 6th graders would move into that wing. Next slide. So we're going to talk next about our 5th grade plan for the elementary schools in particular. And I do want to state that we did a lot of preliminary planning around this just to make sure and ensure that we could house all of our 5th graders in the elementary schools for the upcoming school year. Next slide. So we presented this slide on our February 26th hearing as well. And this really just speaks to the K-6 enrollment across all of our schools and what that enrollment will look like if 5th grade remains in elementary schools and if 6th grade moves to the modulars across the schools. So you see at the bottom, we have each of our elementary schools, Cheltenham, Glenside, Myers, and Wyncote, and then we have a separate designation for the modulars as well. The blue column is our current enrollment in those schools. Our red column is the 25-26 enrollment if we actually keep our current 4th graders there as 5th graders next year. And then you see the yellow is 85% of building capacity, and the green is the actual building capacity. You do see that we have quite a bit of space in the schools. We're hitting that 85% capacity point in Cheltenham, Glenside, Myers, and Wyncote. But we do have space to grow over time if necessary. I think it's really important that we consider the space issues because we had to make sure that we had physical space for our 5th grade classrooms, for the movement in our encore classes, and for other considerations, including lunch and recess, for example. Next slide. Based upon conversations that we had with our school communities and with our administrators, including, I call it my circuit because I went to quite a few faculty meetings and had conversations with our staff as well. We actually came up with this recommendation for assistant principals. We have decided that it would be best to reassign the assistant principals from Elkins Park School and from Climate and Culture into the elementary schools that would be largest. So Cheltenham Elementary School, Wyncote Elementary School, and Glenside Elementary School will each now get an assistant principal as part of this move. Myers Elementary School will receive a fully released teacher on assignment. We do have a job description for that teacher on assignment as far as responsibilities and what that means. And we have been working with CEA in particular to make sure and ensure that that role is clear within that building. Next slide. So curriculum instruction and programming in particular, because we have our current fourth graders that are going to remain as fifth graders, we are going to keep the fifth grade as self-contained because that is part of our elementary school model. Currently, all of our K to fourth grade classes are self-contained across all of the elementary schools. And now we will be moving to a K to fifth self-contained model. We will be utilizing existing instructional materials with the exception of some science materials that will be purchased as part of our high quality instructional materials process that we are engaged in this particular school year. And we will be piloting some new science materials so that we will remain in line with new state standards that have been released. Next slide. So at this point, all Elkins Park staff and faculty have received preliminary reassignments for elementary schools and sixth grade as part of Cedarbrook. We actually had individual conversations with teachers and spoke with them about where they would be going after we sent some surveys out and we gauged their interest in going to different assignments. We also had conversations with support staff. I personally spoke with quite a few of our SSOs and our building aides about where they would be moving to as well. Through our Council of Instruction and Professional Development, which is in partnership with CEA, our collective bargaining agreement with teachers, we have actually been working on master schedules for the K to 5 model, as well as a sixth grade modular schedule that mimics Cedarbrook's schedule. We are in the process now of scheduling meetings with CEA so we can take a look at some of those drafts and make sure that we are in line with our contractual requirements. And we also have assigned special education teachers and staff and made some pretty significant adjustments in some buildings, actually adding staff so that we can maintain caseload requirements for our students that have special education supports and services. Next slide. Some important notes for our special education programming. We are actually adding an autism support classroom to Glenside Elementary so that we will have an autistic support class at every elementary school. And we have been redistributing learning support teachers as well to support caseloads in the elementary school as well as in the sixth grade. Next slide. Encore programming. In grades K to 5, we are adding a STEM specific encore class. So it will become a standalone encore class, which is similar to art, music, physical education, and so on. And each of our elementary schools will share 2 floating gifted teachers. And I think this is a really important point. We are separating challenge into gifted and STEM. Challenge previous and prior to this was actually a conflation of STEM and gifted. Our challenge teachers would support both our gifted students and also teach STEM units to all of our students on a regular rotation. We actually are able to staff K to 5 STEM classes with existing challenge teachers in most circumstances. We did post for 1 STEM position, which we had an internal candidate apply for. And we do have enough teachers as well for gifted. So we are in the process of posting just 1 gifted position. I assume and expect that we will likely have an internal applicant for that as well. I think this is going to be really important for our students as we are seeing a change in the state standards that actually speaks to science, technology, and ecological sciences. This particular encore class will be an opportunity for us to provide them with instruction that is specific to those new standards, and also give them a chance to really do some design thinking and think about project-based learning. Next slide, please. Instrumental music. We actually are maintaining and expanding instrumental music at the elementary schools and at Cedarbrook. We are in the process of hiring an additional strings teacher. That posting has been, that has already been posted as well, and we have a number of applicants to interview. A band teacher from Elkins Park has agreed to actually support our elementary schools so that we could introduce band at the 4th and 5th grade level. The teacher that will be hired for strings will actually be utilized to support strings at the 4th and 5th grade level as well. And then we will be leaving a strings and a band teacher over at the modulars to support the 6th grade with the continuation of that programming. Of course, when the 6th grade moves over to Cedarbrook, those teachers will join Cedarbrook as part of their instrumental music staff. Next slide. We have already preliminarily reassigned counselors and nurses. Cheltenham, Glenside, and Wyncote will each receive an additional counselor to support our students as the number of students in those buildings is increasing. Now, on the next slide, you'll see that we are actually speaking to plans for the empowerment program in Cheltenham, which is EPIC. And EPIC in particular has had some success. I'm sure our board members remember at the educational affairs meeting this past week, Dr. Zubeyru, who is the lead administrator over at EPIC, actually spoke to the success that they have had in terms of graduation rate and really re-engaging students in their education at the high school level. Next slide, please. EPIC will be relocated to the new wing in Elkins Park, where there are actually 12 classrooms and office spaces that are available for use. So the main office of the Elkins Park School will remain open for EPIC use, as well as other parts of the building. I do want to mention that Dr. Scriven and I did have a conversation with the team over at EPIC, the teachers in particular, and they shared with us that the students were advocating heavily for them to remain separate from the high school for a number of reasons. And considering that, we felt it was really important to honor the request of the students and the staff and to find some place in district that could sufficiently continue to support them and also to give them that sense of community that they need. This portion of the Elkins Park School is one that was most recently built. Facilities and myself and Dr. Zubeyru had walked that section of the building. I'm sure you know Dr. Zubeyru was an assistant principal at Elkins Park for a number of years, and she knows the building itself very well. And we were able to lay out a plan whereby we would use just those classrooms in the new wing, along with some of the other spaces that we already had designated as being open for our 6th graders over at the modulars. And it seems as though the staff and the students are very excited about being able to remain a separate program that is still attached to the high school. Next slide. So next, 6th grade at the mods. Next slide, please. So Principal Nelson will be remaining at the modulars as the 6th grade assistant principal / lead administrator. She will also have a fully released teacher on assignment that will help her with the 6th grade academy model, which we will talk about on the next slide. Because we actually have a schedule over at the mods that mimics the schedule at Cedarbrook and utilizes a team model. So there will be 3 teams over in the modulars. There'll be 3 6th grade teams. And we plan on implementing a 6th grade Success Academy model. And that teacher on assignment will actually support the implementation of this model. And that actually means that the model itself focuses on making sure that students have a good transition into middle school. From our comprehensive planning process, we saw that the transition piece in particular from school to school was where we were seeing a lot of dips in our data. And this is an opportunity for us to kind of rethink and recreate some successful mechanisms to support our students as they are moving into different times in their lives. Next slide, please. So this sixth grade Success Academy model will provide additional support with professional learning for our faculty and staff, in particular, supporting them with their PLC model and making sure that we are utilizing our MTSS processes correctly, and providing them with some specific tools to help them inform instruction and organize interventions for students, and also making sure that we have appropriate social emotional learning opportunities for students. We did hear the Elkins Park staff speak with quite a bit of passion around what they've been able to do with PBIS and also with social emotional learning for our students. And we wanted to make sure that we not only formalized that, but that we packaged it in a way that would be portable to our sixth grade at Cedarbrook. Next slide. A change from our February presentation as well. Our sixth grade will have a gifted and a separate STEM teacher. Over at Cedarbrook, there are gifted teachers and there are separate STEM teachers. And in mimicking that schedule, we realized that we needed to separate those two roles. So they will not be collapsed, but they will be separate and they will be scheduled accordingly. Both physical education / health teachers will move to the modulars from the Elkins Park School, but we will keep the gym open so that they can utilize that on a regular schedule. And we do have an art teacher that is going to remain at the mods and one that will be moving to Cedarbrook. I also have had a couple conversations where we will be able to keep the library at the Elkins Park School open for student use. We have a pretty extensive library in Elkins Park School. It cannot be housed in the modulars at this point in time, just due to space considerations, but obviously there will be a point in time when the library materials will move over to the Cedarbrook Library and will be incorporated into that library. Next slide. So our current EP math and reading specialist will be supporting sixth grade students in the 25-26 school year. This is one detail that we are attempting to work out because there are no intervention teachers in the Cedarbrook schedule. So we are attempting to figure out a best mechanism to utilize our math and reading specialists so that they can provide targeted intervention for our students over at the mods. But students will obviously continue to receive the support of their ESL teachers, and of course, a counselor and a nurse have already been reassigned. Next slide. Extra duty, extra pay, which is what we call our after school activities, in which our teacher sponsors clubs and they sponsor intramural activities. They will be maintained at the modulars. There will also be a portion of those units, those EDEP units, that actually move down into the elementary school as well. That is a detail that we have not yet worked out, but one that we would like to partner with CEA in thinking about. And obviously the Elkins Park Gym will remain open for after school activities for those sixth grade EDEP clubs, intramural units, and so on. Next slide. Just some additional information around some things that, encompass the school day that we needed to think about. So on the next slide, we will see that because we are moving on to a Cedarbrook schedule for sixth grade, we are moving from 4 school timelines to 3. We will have the elementary timeline, we will have the Cedarbrook timeline, and then we will have the high school timeline. So that will be completely feasible. Our transportation supervisor has already worked out some of that. And we don't expect that we're going to have a significant cost in transportation as related to these timelines. Parking will need to be considered, and we will be reaching out as a school district to the township for help and support around this. Particularly around a couple of our schools that are pretty landlocked and they do not have large parking lots. So those 2 elementary schools, Myers and Wincode in particular, we are very attuned to the fact that we might have to, have a conversation with the township around designating additional street parking in the neighborhood for those schools. Next slide. Food services. Elkins Park will have a fully functioning kitchen, and Whitson's will be utilizing that kitchen to prepare student food for both the students at the mods and also our EPIC students. And then they will be able to transport the food that has been prepared for the students at the mods to the mods, because obviously The modulars have a very large and beautiful space for students to eat. There's a nice cafeteria there. Our EPIC students will be able to utilize the cafeteria that is at Elkins Park, and our students will be fed appropriately. I have gone over and sampled the food at Elkins Park out of that kitchen, and it is honestly the best in the district, and it made us not want to shut it down. It's quite delicious. I'm not sure what they do there, but it is seasoned appropriately. All of the good things. Next slide. Professional development. We are building our professional development for the summer. The Office of Education and our team spoke this week about summer institutes. We actually have a sketch of a schedule that we will be releasing to teachers prior to the end of the school year, so that they can come in and participate in professional learning activities over the summer. Teachers obviously are compensated for their time as they are 10-month employees when they come in, but this will be particularly important for our teachers that are transitioning grades. So if I was a second grade teacher this year, but I'm going to teach fifth grade next year, I want to have time to come in, look at the instructional materials, and sit with one of our curriculum supervisors so that we can go through it and I can have my questions answered. And I think that's going to be really important for our staff to feel comfortable because this is a lot of change, a lot of shifting, and it's happening all at once. So we are trying to make sure that we have opportunities for our teachers to come in and be supported. And the next slide. Moving costs and timeline. We will ask staff at Elkins Park School to spend their last in-service day back in classrooms, which is June 20th, in lieu of participating in asynchronous professional development activities. It is likely that some of those staff will be done even prior to then, which is fine. But items that need to be moved, including furniture, will be tagged and labeled. We do have a color-coded system, and we will be distributing those tags this week. Boxes had already been distributed to Elkins Park in particular so that teachers could begin to box up their items. And we also have had boxes delivered to other schools. And we are currently utilizing Kelly Services to hire summer help to support the move. So currently we have, I believe, about 30 people being onboarded based on our conversations today. So we will have enough staff to support the moving of the furniture, the boxes, and the cleaning of the buildings and so on and so forth. And next slide. Communications planning in particular is incredibly important, and this is really the last step and the thing that we need to focus on moving forward. We have been planning for this, and we have been very specific about laying out what needs to happen from the time that the board votes forward so that we can open school in an efficient and effective manner in the fall of 2025. But based upon the board's vote and the decision of the board this evening, we will prepare additional letters to the community, communicating the outcome of the vote and then the actual process moving forward. We do have a website landing page and some frequently asked questions that are ready to go for families that we can post. We will share obviously through our different news shares, both in our Sunday communication, but also through the newsletters that our families receive from their principals. And then we will share additional pertinent information internally for our principals and for our teachers through those newsletters. And at this point, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Swigert so he can give us a brief construction update. Next slide.
Thank you, Siobhan. Next slide, please. So the construction timeline, as it centers around Elkins Park, began in 2022, where the district began a strategic plan study to address aging facilities across the district and to focus on how finance and enrollment align with those aging facilities. We engaged an enrollment study with the help of the district and Montgomery County, and we evaluated all educational space with district support and architect and engineering professional personnel. And what we found was the amount of aging facilities was in excess of our financial capability to replace it all, and our enrollment did not support having as much square footage of educational space as what we had. So the result of this feasibility study resulted in 2 construction projects directly related to the, at the time, was future closure of Elkins Park, which is somewhat premature as a result of the condition of the building. Next slide, please. So one project as a result of this feasibility study and strategic plan is the Cedarbrook Middle School project. It will add approximately 19 classrooms in additional to small group instructional spaces and building administrative spaces for counselors and principals. The project is currently in land development in Cheltenham Township and is currently scheduled for this Monday to be in front of the Public Works Committee. And the project is scheduled to be bid in the winter of 2025 with a 2026 project start timeline with a goal to be completed by the fall of 2027. Up on the screen, you see a rendering of the new addition to Cedarbrook Middle School, which faces 309 in the baseball fields on the front of the building and is that 19 classroom addition. Next slide. The inside of that 19 classroom addition is demonstrated above with a current plan and a map for how those classroom spaces are supposed to be, are scheduled to be utilized. The red classrooms in the above floor plan are the administrative space that's added. Next slide. And this is the second floor of that same addition. Next slide. Also included in this project is an additional space added to the cafeteria at Cedarbrook to account for the additional grade and the increased size of the lunch periods. And you can see the addition allows for not only more classroom space, but better eyesight and better visual inspection of the entire room, as well as more open sunlight and window space. Next slide. The second project identified as part of the strategic plan is the Glenside Elementary Addition project. This project consists of 6 additional classroom spaces to be added, approximately 8,000 square feet, and additional parking to the site. This will right-size Glenside Elementary to better match our enrollment and to provide the necessary additional space that may be needed if we do ever experience any sort of significant enrollment growth. The project has currently received preliminary approval with the township and is scheduled to be, just like Cedarbrook, to be bid in the winter of 2025 with construction to start in the summer of 2026 and can be completed by the fall of 2027. Next slide. Here you can see where the new additional classrooms highlighted in blue are to be added on the building. These additional classrooms were situated strategically to coincide with the existing capacity of all of the mechanical, MEP, HVAC, plumbing facilities that are currently in the building so that none would have to be added or replaced to the site. So that's the location was strategic. Next slide. And that is my entire presentation on construction. Thanks, Siobhan.
We will move to the consent portion of the agenda. And I have a motion to approve the closure of the Elkins Park School.
So moved, Daniel Schultz. Second, Zachary Epps.
Before we go to public comment, I'd just like to read that the board has been presented in the community with a plan from the administration for the permanent closure of Elkins Park School, and pursuant to section 780 of the Pennsylvania School Code, the board conducted a public hearing to consider this plan on February 26, 2025. Now the administration recommends that the board vote publicly to approve the administration's plan for the permanent closure of Elkins Park School beginning with the 2025-2026 school year. I'd like to open up the floor for comments from the board. Mr. Schultz?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start by thanking administration, our staff. I'll also throw thanks to KCBA for their work, but particularly our central administration, staff at Elkins Park, and our building principals who have worked so diligently and hard over the past 3 years to make this plan as robust as it is. We saw tonight an even more robust plan than we saw 90 days ago. And the one 90 days ago was already quite incredible, given that this is such a large and important change. I also want to thank our community, at large, and our student community that's affected by this for the courage to face change, because this is a major change and it is one that impacts our fifth graders, our fourth graders, our third graders, and then everyone below. But it impacts in such a positive way, and that is why I think we're seeing a community recognize that. They see an effectively thought through plan, and they see the importance of this change for our kids. And that is why I think we're seeing no public comment tonight asking us to reconsider this vote. It's not for lack of access. It's because we have so thoroughly discussed this and weighed stakeholder input. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I also wanted to just note that I went to Elkins Park. So I don't remember exactly what years. I graduated high school in 2005. I know Titanic came out when I was in fifth grade because everyone was talking about, well, half the students were talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. And I have a lot of memories from EP. It was a really great place. And when I think about Elkins Park, I think it's a building, a community has a building, a community has a people, and a community has a history. And Elkins Park has all three of those things. So as we transition away from it as a building, I know that we are going to find ways to honor that community and that history, and reflect on what Elkins Park has meant for generations of our students. But today, I just want to end by thanking again the administration for such a thoughtful plan. It's rare that I see fiscal responsibility, community input, and optimal student outcome locking in together the way that you all have managed to make it lock in together and thinking of so many things. So thank you again.
Mr. Epps?
Yeah, here to everything that was said. I wanted to add three specific things that we heard tonight. That was improvements from the February meeting, specifically from what we heard from the community. Not that it is limited to these three things, but these three things resonated with me the most. One is around special accommodations for children with special needs. The conversation was, okay, where are they going to go? Are there enough teachers and things like that? And what we heard was there's expanded programs at every school. And so my thinking down the line, we could actually have children going to their neighborhood school again because of this move. And so that is one area that I heard in more in-depth planning since February. Mitigating the impact of the transition on students is something we also heard from community members. And so we heard different ways in terms of the Success Academy, in terms of adding counselors to schools, assistant principals. So adding the supports that are needed to receive and love and care for these students, both academically and social emotionally. And then also clarity for staff and EPIC. And so we heard, right, some of the preliminary planning is complete in terms of reassignments. EPIC, right, we have an answer for where that, and again, a fiscally responsible answer for where EPIC can be housed. And so those three things particularly resonate with me the most. And so thank you to administration for responding and building on what were significant community concerns, valid concerns. That was for sure.
Ms. Mulhern?
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I'm not going to repeat anything that my colleagues said except for appreciation, and I'm going to talk about some other very specific things that jumped out to me. Excited to hear, again, it does go back to appreciation, but I guess the level of detail coming from February to now, the tweaking, the continual meeting with stakeholder groups. I know you met with PTOs and not just the staff and the administrators, but to kind of get things to where they are today. I'm really excited to see that we found opportunities to expand music as an example, not just keeping status quo, but using this as an opportunity to expand our offerings to our students. Having just been to several musical concerts in the last few weeks, they were awesome, and I know that they will continue to be so because we continue to put resources into those programs. And I know from speaking with teachers here and there casually, that they feel like they have been a part of the process. And so I think that's really good to hear them on their own, just offering the great process that they've been able to be a part of. And, you know, there's some nerves, there's some excitement, it's change. I think we all probably feel that way, but they certainly, the ones that I spoke with feel heard. Lastly, a little bit about Epic. I'm happy to see that we're able to honor it, keeping standalone, those students, those staff, so they can continue to do the work that they are doing there. And as Mr. Schultz mentioned, I look forward to more formally honoring the legacy that is Elkins Park School. I have a student there now. I have 2 graduates. All have had great experiences. I have a 5th grader excited to go to the mods, and I know he is in very good hands because of what our administrators and staff and faculty have been doing. So thank you.
Mr. Burdell Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to underscore my energy around where we are right now, I appreciate administration for what is genuinely a human-focused decision, student-focused decision, right? At the surface, it could feel like a business decision related to something that's very expensive and difficult to manage. However, it is about the quality of the experience, excuse me, for our students and for the school community. And I'm hearing that in every single step as we started this process a number of months ago, even from the very event that brought us to the point where we needed to discuss this, through all of the individual conversations that the board has been a part of. The students and the community have been, and the staff and the community have been at the center of those decisions. I'll also share, right, that I, was one of the folks, or maybe the only, who didn't see necessarily that managing the asset was terrible. But I do think that where we are right now is in a place that provides a bunch of confidence for me, as well as from what I hope. And here is very few public comments to Mr. Schultz's point regarding a need to pivot. I think that says a lot about the careful planning that has gone into this process. And again, also myself, very grateful for where we are at this point in time. Thank you.
Ms. Loman?
Thank you. Thank you for all my fellow board members for their comments already. I just wanted to add one other thing, which is to say, I want to thank the administration for having the courage to take this issue on. This has been an issue for a very long time. Not only the conditions of the building, but whether or not 5 and 6 school is even a good model for kids. And it would have been very easy to sort of kick this can down the road another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. When we celebrate Elkins Park's 100th anniversary. But I really appreciate the thought, the time, the consideration and work with all of the stakeholders to do this very thoughtfully, not reactively, but proactively. And I foresee good things in the future for this new model. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Whiting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to highlight that in my view, this transition represents a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion from the perspective of the district, not just in the way that we think about supporting students in schools through special education programming, but also in the way that we're diversifying classrooms, moving autism support classrooms, further diversify the student populations at Glenside will now have an autism support classroom. Thinking about equity in particular, we all know that equity is not everybody getting the same thing. It's everybody getting what they need. And it is not lost on this board and me, myself, that the 4th and 5th graders in particular had an educational experience in their kindergarten and 1st grade years that was punctuated by teleeducation. And we are still paying educational debts to those 4th and 5th graders who are in those classes now. We are thinking about that as a board. We are thinking about the ways that we can support and provide resources to them now that both of those classes will undergo several transitions year over year in a row that we were not expecting. And so shout out to the administration for thinking through the ways that we can support those kids who have had different educational experiences than almost any other grade has had, and thinking about how we can make those grades really solidify who they are and grow as a cohort rather than having this be a disruptive or maladaptive educational experience. Finally, I also want to thank the elementary school principals who are going to take on new responsibilities, new grades. It is an enormous lift to just have to think through what these things look like. And we would not be even confident in this had we not had feedback from all of you about this process. I, as one board member, have confidence in all of you, and I'm looking forward to tackling this new challenge in the next year with you as a board member. And finally, thank you to the administration. This plan, as my colleagues have said, is well thought out. It is a pivot from where we wanted to be in this transition process, but is a pivot that is essential to the success of the district in the long term. And as many of my colleagues have said, will be an asset to the district in the long term. So thank you.
So finally, I will say, with everybody stealing all the thunder that I thought I had, I really do want to acknowledge the principals that are here tonight and some that aren't, that are under your great leadership with your staff. That's the only way that this would absolutely be possible. So lastly, what I'd like to leave you with is at this time is hoping that you understand and know how much the board supports you, the hard work that you do as boots on the ground, and to encourage you to take time to do self-care and to preserve and prioritize your well-being, because without you, none of this happens. So thank you for all you do. All right, I think that we can call for our vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays?
Aye.
Thank you, Mia. And so the vote carries. The vote is approved. So thank you, everyone. Next, I will call for a adjournment of this meeting.
So moved. Second, Zachary, yes. Let the record show that motion was by Mr. Daniel Schultz.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.